The last day before the summer break begins, the classroom is filled with chatter. A guy calls his friend Haru to ask about his plans for the break. Our MC replies that he might study, which surprises his friend. He dramatically tells Haruto Otsuki to relax and enjoy his youth. Maybe go to the beach or pool with some classmates. Haruto replies dryly that he's on his own if he invites Tojo-san. In response, his friend shouts at Haru for abandoning his best friend. Ayaka Tojo is indeed a stunner, known for her shiny hair and long legs, and is loved by everyone at school. When his buddy insists on inviting her, Haru tells Tomoya to try himself and get rejected. Tomoya believes Haru might actually have a chance with her because he's smart, but he considers the possibility that maybe she's just not interested in guys. Tomoya thinks that if that's true, it's not so bad either. Haruto then shares that, besides studying, his plans for the break include a short-term housekeeping gig. When he gets home, his grandma greets him warmly. He shows off the groceries he bought at a bargain, and she's thrilled. The supermarket likely had long lines. As Haruto requests steak burgers for dinner, he can't help but rave about his grandmother's cooking skills. Before sitting down to eat, he stops in front of his parents' altar and says hello, a habit formed since he was orphaned in a car crash as a child and raised by his grandparents. His grandfather, who had encouraged him to join a karate dojo to build his strength, passed away before he reached middle school. As he updates his parents on his new job, he promises to balance work and studies while still attending the dojo. His gaze drifts to his grandmother, and he feels grateful for the household skills and cooking lessons she's instilled in him. He's learned a lot about managing the household, and he appreciates the effort she's put into raising him. Lost in thought, Haruto's grandma notices his distant expression and asks what's on his mind. He brushes it off, saying he's just excited about the burgers. After dinner, he settles into his chair, feeling comfortable and content. Just then, Tomoya calls, greeting him with a silly joke that falls flat with Haruto. Undeterred, Tomoya asks if Haru wants to hear some news. Haruto agrees, and Tomoya tells him that Kaito-senpai, a popular tennis player, just got rejected by Tojo-san in front of everyone. Haruto isn't surprised. He's aware that many guys asked her out, but none have ever gotten a positive response. He feels sorry for Tojo, tired of guys hitting on her. Tomoya teases him to ask her out, warning that he'll likely get rejected. After hanging up, Haruto muses that Tojo-san is just a conversation topic, but things will change with his new job. On the third day of summer break, Haruto meets his first celebrity client. He's nervous and rings the bell of the mansion. When the door opens, he introduces himself but is surprised to see Tojo-san, his classmate. She was expecting a female cleaner. Haruto offers to find another, though it would take time. She tells him to proceed. He double-checks, and she confirms after confirming that he's not there for her. As he enters the house, he's impressed by the long hallway. Tojo shows Haruto to the kitchen, and he's surprised to be working at her house. She's still uncertain about having him do the job. As they tour the living room and kitchen, Haruto notices the spacious living room and hands her his card, explaining their service. He confirms the service she asked for is 3 hours to clean the kitchen and make dinner. Tojo feels awkward being formal with a classmate, but Haruto smiles and says Tojo-sama is an important customer. He asks if there's anything specific she'd like him to focus on. Tojo mentions something and asks him to look at the kitchen first. The kitchen is a mess, and she apologizes for the state it's in. Haruto smiles and says he'll make it clean and tidy. Tojo offers to clean the living room, but Haruto offers to do it for her. She questions if it isn't too much work. He smiles and replies, it's what he's here for. Tojo leaves the living room for him to clean, instructing him to knock on her door if he needs anything. She reminds him to be careful with everything and gives him some final instructions before heading to her room. As she walks away, Haruto feels a bit nervous and thinks to himself that this situation is really stressing him out. He's taken aback by how cute she is up close, and he catches himself getting distracted. He quickly reminds himself to focus on the task at hand, trying to shake off the feeling. Meanwhile, Tojo is in her room, feeling a bit anxious about the unexpected situation. She's still surprised that Otsuki-kun, her classmate, is the one cleaning her house. Words about Otsuki-kun being a good fit for her come to mind. 3 days earlier, Ayaka told her friend Saki that she didn't want to go to school because a senpai had confessed to her, and it had been really awkward. Feeling sorry for her, Saki tried to cheer her up, reminding her that summer break was coming soon and everyone would forget about it. She then suggested that Tojo find a boyfriend so other boys would stop bothering her. Tojo admitted she didn't know anyone suitable. Saki recommended Otsuki from their class, describing him as a nice and calm person. Tojo remembered him as a top scorer. Saki added that he would look after her and keep the other boys away, which would be good for her. Thinking back on their conversation, Tojo's surprised he has shown up as a housekeeper and wonders if she seemed awkward during their earlier interaction. Meanwhile, Haruto starts cleaning, noticing that Tojo-san seems a bit clumsy. After finishing his task, he thinks he should let her know. Just then, a boy returns home. His eyes land on Haruto, who doesn't even get to utter a word before the kid starts shouting, "Thief!" He rushes down the hallway, yelling at the top of his lungs. When Tojo comes downstairs, she sees Ryota and asks why he's making such a fuss. Ryota points at our MC, calling him a thief. Tojo sees that it's Otsuki. With an awkward smile, he apologizes, explaining that her brother must have mistaken him for a thief. Tojo just smiles. Ryota looks at his Oni-chan with a confused expression, and she reassures him that Haruto isn't a thief, but a housekeeper who helps with cleaning and cooking. Ryota's face falls as he asks if it's because of the mess he made in the kitchen. She explains that she had been considering getting help. She pats his head for trying to cook for her, and reminds him that he had plans to play with friends. Haruto realizes the mess was caused by the boy, not Tojo-san. She apologizes for Ryota and introduces him properly. Haruto apologizes for startling him, and Ryota does the same for calling him a thief, prompting our guy to be impressed. After finishing the cleaning, Haruto asks Tojo-san to check it out. She's impressed. Meanwhile, Ryota dashes in, thrilled by the tidiness, and runs around joyfully. She calms him down, reminding him not to make a mess again. She thanks Otsuki, relieved that he came. Since her parents are away on a business trip, she's been handling household tasks and caring for Ryota alone, which has been tough. Haruto compliments her, saying she's an amazing sister, something he can tell just by observing. She appreciates the praise, and Ryota appears, also praising his sister. Haruto then praises Ryota in return, calling him a good little brother, which makes the boy beam with joy. His sister agrees, and Ryota's happiness grows. Haruto then notices that dinner needs to be prepared for 4 people and asks permission to check the fridge. She agrees, and he examines the ingredients, thinking about what he can make. After borrowing some seasonings, he suggests hamburger steak for dinner. Ryota's eyes light up, and he exclaims that he wants to eat it. They agree on hamburger steak, and Haruto begins cooking. When he serves it, both sister and brother are surprised by the presentation. She comments that he's not only skilled at cleaning, but also a talented cook, which is impressive. Otsuki humbly says it's nothing special, but she insists that his level is exceptional. He writes down cooking methods for her parents' meals and hands her the paper. Checking the time, he says it's time to finish up, so he'll leave now. She thanks him for his help, and he replies politely. Ryota comes over looking sad, says goodbye, hoping to see him again. Haruto thinks it's a bit strange to be helping a classmate, and assumes they probably won't need him anymore. She walks him to the door. He thanks her for hiring their service and mentions they have a special deal for regular customers, handing her a flyer with the details and saying it's a good value. She jokes that he sounds like a salesman and finds it strange that he's being so formal with her. She asks if they can talk normally, but he insists he needs to stay professional. Tojo smiles when he calls her a customer, and he reminds her to go back inside before her food gets cold. She thanks him again, and he bows, saying they look forward to helping her again. As Otsuki leaves, he feels happy that his first job went well. He thinks the school idol is from a rich family, mentally telling Tomoya to give up on the idea. Tojo and her brother enjoy the hamburger steak, with Ryota eating quickly. His sister warns him to chew slowly and offers him water. Ryota asks if Oni-chan will come again, but his sister replies that their parents are returning home, so they won't need house help for now. She finds Otsuki friendly and skilled, noting how even her shy brother warmed up to him. Her eyes land on the regular contract flyer, but she believes there's no way she'll need it. The next day, Ayaka meets Saki at a cafe. She teases her about the public declaration and comments that it was surprising. Tojo replies that it was really awkward for her. Saki then mentions that guys are still eager to impress her, and Tojo responds that boys often cause problems for her. She shares her past struggles with boys, confessing their feelings almost weekly, which led to misunderstandings with friends and made her a bit of a target. As a result, she's kept her distance from romance and wonders about love at first sight without knowing someone's personality. Saki suggests a pretend boyfriend, but Ayaka is hesitant. Saki mentions the manga love stories Ayaka enjoys, believing it could start as a fake relationship and turn real. Ayaka cautions her not to get too excited. After lunch, Saki asked how Tojo managed the household chores alone while her parents were away on a business trip, especially with her energetic little brother Ryota causing mischief. Saki is impressed by Tojo's effort and resourcefulness in handling everything on her own. Tojo admits it was tough, but her mom had suggested hiring some help, so she got a housekeeper on the last day to make things easier. Tojo thinks she'll get teased if she mentions Otsuki again, and isn't sure if she'll need him anymore. Saki asks if a professional housekeeper showed up, and Tojo replies yes. She recalls Otsuki's impressive cleaning skills and polite manner. Tojo mentally agrees with Saki that he seems like a gentleman, with a calm and gentle nature. Despite being the same age, Otsuki seemed mature to her. Tojo wonders if she could be friends with him, despite usually keeping boys at a distance. However, she remembers him calling her a client. Saki notices Ayaka lost in thought, but she replies that she was just thinking about how amazing the housekeeper was. Elsewhere, Haruto drops by Tomoya's place, surprising him with an unannounced visit despite his usually packed schedule. When asked what brought him over, he explains that his air conditioner broke. His friend jokes about charging him for electricity, but Haruto offers to clean in return. Spotting a new guitar in the room, he asks when it was bought. Tomoya admits it was a bit of a splurge and half-jokingly suggests starting a band to make the most of their youth. Haruto declines, saying his studies and part-time job keep him too busy. Curious, Tomoya asks how work went yesterday. Haruto replies that it was fulfilling, his thoughts briefly drifting to Tojo. The grin on his face catches Tomoya's attention. He teasingly asks if the client was an attractive woman and whether anything exciting happened. Haruto quickly shuts him down, insisting nothing of the sort could occur with Tojo-san. When Tomoya confirms if his client was Ayaka Tojo, Haruto denies it, but his expression gives him away. He asks Tomoya to keep quiet, citing confidentiality and respect. Tomoya keeps teasing him about visiting her home and possibly getting closer over the summer, though he's clearly jealous. Haruto doubts Ayaka would reach out again. Certain she feels uneasy around him, Tomoya believes he wouldn't feel awkward at all. When Haruto asks about his sister, Haruka, Tomoya mentions she's taking summer classes to enroll in the same school next year, and jokes that he will probably ditch her for Tojo-san. Later, Haruto finds himself standing outside the Tojo residence, wondering why she called him over. A woman's voice over the intercom asks him to wait. Moments later, the door opens to reveal a graceful woman with a warm smile who says Ayaka has told her about him. Her poise and kindness leave him both puzzled and intrigued. She welcomes Otsuki with a warm smile, saying she's heard wonderful things about him from Ayaka. She thanks him for coming despite the severe heat and invites him in. He is caught off guard, realizing he didn't know Tojo-san had an older sibling. As they walk down the hallway, Ryota peeks out from behind the door. Otsuki greets him and Ryota emerges. His mother playfully mentions that Ayaka told her he enjoyed a hamburger earlier. Otsuki asks if it was to his liking, and Ryota hesitantly confirms it was delicious. Otsuki feels a sense of warmth at the moment, but is surprised when he registers the word mom, given her youthful appearance. She explains that she and her husband run a company that often takes them away from home. Last time as well, there was a sudden business trip, so they advised Ayaka to call the housekeeping service if needed. His assistance has been a huge blessing. He responds humbly, grateful that she's satisfied, thinking it's no wonder given her parents are business owners. Otsuki thanks her for choosing their services and confirms the service Tojo-san chose. Her mother smiles, verifying the details, and asks if he's Ayaka's classmate. Upon confirmation, she warmly suggests he drop the formalities and call her Ikue-san. He hesitates, but she playfully encourages him to relax. Just then, Ayaka arrives. Otsuki apologizes for the interruption, bowing respectfully. She explains that her mother had wanted to meet him after knowing they were classmates, and Ryota had been eagerly requesting his cooking again. Otsuki promises his best, and Ayaka expresses her anticipation. Observing the exchange, her mother chuckles and suggests that, as classmates, they should interact more casually. Ayaka mentions she's never spoken to Otsuki-kun at school, prompting her mother to suggest they get to know each other. Ayaka reluctantly agrees, and her mother mentions her not having any male friends, noting Otsuki's pleasant demeanor. Ayaka clarifies she doesn't want to befriend anyone for superficial reasons, looking flustered. Her mother teases her, but apologizes to Otsuki for her daughter's behavior. He asks Ikue-san about specific cleaning requests and starts on the windows with newspaper. Ikue expresses concern about the dirt, but he confidently assures her they'll sparkle. Ryota curiously asks about the wet newspaper, and Otsuki explains its effectiveness. Ryota wants to try, and Otsuki guides him. Ikue apologizes for the interruption, but he smiles, appreciating the help. Ayaka watches with quiet interest. Her mother comments on the strong bond forming between the two, saying they seem like brothers. Ayaka agrees, only for her mom to tease that someone might be feeling a bit left out, or perhaps drawn to him. Flustered, she quickly denies it. Concerned, Ryota asks if she's unwell, but she excuses herself, insisting she's fine. Ryota asks why his sister is acting strange, and his mom replies that she's simply feeling life's little joys, hoping spring brings her the same warmth. After finishing, Otsuki tells Ikue he's done and asks if she has any other requests. She thanks him, mentioning how rare it is for her to be so productive at home. He offers to start preparing dinner and asks about her menu preferences. She requests a refreshing yet satisfying meal due to the heat. Otsuki suggests lemon-flavored cream pasta with cold soup and caprese salad, which she approves. She mentions the fridge is empty and asks him to pick up groceries. Otsuki agrees, and Ikue hands him money, checking if it's sufficient. As he prepares to leave, Ryota wakes and asks where Oni-chan's headed. He insists on joining Otsuki despite his mom's attempts to persuade him to stay. Tearful, Ryota reminds them he helped with the cleaning earlier. Ikue notes his unusual attachment and thinks he must have taken a liking to Otsuki. So our lad offers to take him along. Ikue-san then comes up with a plan. A while later, Ayaka arrives and Otsuki notices her adorable appearance. Ikue playfully entrusts Ayaka with caring for Ryota, saying there's no ulterior motive, winking at her. The kid excitedly urges them to hurry, and the trio sets off, Ryota bubbling with excitement. Otsuki lifts Ryota onto his shoulders and they head to the market, putting a huge smile on the boy's face. Ayaka thanks him for going along with Ryota's request and apologizes for the trouble. Otsuki assures her it's no problem at all. Her face flushes as she recalls her mother's teasing words. Checking in with Ryota, Otsuki asks if he's feeling okay up there, and he happily replies that he's fine. Ayaka comments on how kind he is and how well he gets along with her brother. Otsuki smiles, asking if she really thinks so. He admits that, as an only child, spending time with Ryota feels like having a little brother, which makes him happy. Ayaka playfully warns that his brother can be a handful sometimes, and Otsuki laughs. Ryota, curious, asks what they're talking about, and she says they're just saying how much they seem like brothers before telling him to climb down. Entering the supermarket, Ayaka asks what they need to buy. Otsuki lists milk, heavy cream, bacon, and fresh greens for the dish. Ryota excitedly spots some fresh vegetables and points them out, earning praise for his keen eye. Otsuki offers to carry the basket, and Ayaka looks at him curiously before asking if he has a girlfriend. He responds with a no, and she smiles, thinking he's a naturally considerate person. He explains that as a housekeeper, he can't let the client carry groceries. Noticing that pumpkins are on sale, he suggests buying some for the soup. She watches thoughtfully as he checks the pumpkins and agrees after a short pause when he asks about buying a whole one. As they are on their way back, Otsuki senses people staring at them and remarks that the crowds must be challenging. Ayaka agrees, saying she's used to it but still finds the attention uncomfortable at times. He grins and says that being overly cute can be tough. Ayaka's cheeks redden at the word, and unaware of the impact of his word, he asks if something's wrong. She quickly downplays it, wondering if he truly meant her and if he actually finds her cute, though she assumes it was just a polite comment. Ryota notices her flushed face and teases her, making her flustered. She blames it on the heat and suggests they head home. When they return, a man greets them warmly. He asks if Otsuki-kun is from the housekeeping service, and he confirms. Ryota runs up and hugs his dad tightly. He asks about their shopping trip, and Otsuki assumes he must be Ayaka and Ryota's father. He bows, introducing himself, and the man returns the greeting. Ayaka, delighted, welcomes her father home early. He explains he came back because he was eager for dinner, especially after enjoying the previous meal. Otsuki assures him he'll do his best and begins preparing dinner. He efficiently prepares dinner, slicing the pumpkin and microwaving it, trimming asparagus and chopping ripe tomatoes for the pasta. Ayaka's mother is impressed by his skill, saying that men who can cook are admirable. Her husband agrees, noting that Otsuki's techniques are remarkably professional. As he works, Otsuki thanks them and promises to do his best to please everyone. Ayaka's father expresses surprise that one of her classmates is so dependable and asks if they're close. She replies that they're not particularly close, but her father is clearly impressed by Otsuki's sincerity. He hopes they'll become friends through this opportunity, and Otsuki agrees, thinking it might be fate. Ayaka blushes as he expresses his hope to befriend her as classmates. Ryota suddenly asks if Oni-chan will join them for dinner. He hesitates, but Ayaka's father warmly invites him to stay. Her mother encourages him to relax, reminding him that he's Ayaka's classmate. Otsuki politely asks if it wouldn't be awkward for the family, but they assure him it's fine. With warm smiles, they welcome him. Shuichi introduces himself and tells Otsuki to call him by his first name. He accepts, then seeks approval to join them. He then uses Tojo-san's first name, Ayaka, while seeking her approval as well. She agrees, and he finds himself surprised. He never thought he'd be addressing her so casually. Ryota excitedly cheers that Oni-chan is joining, and Otsuki repeats that they'll have dinner together. He decides to deliver the best meal and finishes the cooking. He serves chilled pumpkin soup, lemon-flavored pasta, and caprese salad. Ikue-san praises the spread, saying it looks like a restaurant meal. Shuichi suggests they begin, and Ryota enthusiastically declares the food super delicious, eating quickly. His mother reminds him to slow down. Both parents praise the flavor and seasoning, and Otsuki thanks them, relieved they're enjoying it, hoping Tojo-san feels the same. Ryota asks for seconds, but Ayaka tells him to finish what's on his plate first. Shuichi also requests more, so Otsuki heads to the kitchen. Ryota follows, giving him his plate for a refill. Shuichi asks about Otsuki's cooking background, and he explains that his grandmother taught him most of what he knows. Ikue-san asks about his favorite dishes, and he mentions hamburgers, nikujaga, and chikuzeni. Ayaka casually says she'd like to taste his hamburger steak more, prompting her mother to tease her about being charmed by his cooking. She blushes and asks her to stop. After dinner, Shuichi-san expresses his satisfaction with Otsuki's work and proposes a regular contract. Delighted, Otsuki thanks him, though Shuichi insists they should be the ones expressing gratitude. Ikue agrees, adding that they look forward to working with him. Otsuki drifts into thought, still amazed that he'll be working for Tojo-san's family over summer break. Yet, he wonders if she might feel awkward or uneasy about it. His thoughts are interrupted when she wishes him luck as well, and he bows politely, saying he'll be in their care. The next morning, Haruto rises early, reflecting on the previous night's events as he signed a regular contract. As he heads to the kitchen, he greets his grandmother with a warm "good morning." She inquires about his studying habits, and he confirms. She then asks what he wants for breakfast, and he's treated to a delicious serving of miso soup and tamagoyaki. As he savors the meal, he can't help but compliment her cooking, wondering how it differs from his own. His grandmother smiles, assuring him that his cooking is also delicious. Over breakfast, he shares stories about his part-time job, crediting her teachings for his success. He recounts his first day, proudly mentioning the praise he received for his hamburger steak. Expressing his gratitude, Haruto thanks her for her guidance. She beams with pride, happy to hear about his progress. Her next question, however, catches him off guard. "Don't you have a girlfriend yet?" Haruto starts coughing, and she playfully teases him about it being typical for someone his age. He reassures her that most people his age don't have girlfriends, promising to introduce her to a lovely girlfriend someday. As he leaves the house, he ponders his grandmother's concerns, considering her age and well-being. Noticing her increasing back pain, he believes introducing a girlfriend would bring her joy and relief. He wants to put her mind at ease. He becomes concerned that his packed schedule, studying, part-time work, and karate leaves him little time for a romantic relationship. Suddenly, Tojo-san's face pops into his mind, but he dismisses the idea, thinking it's impossible for someone like her to be interested in him. Upon arriving at the dojo, Haruto changes into his uniform and greets his fellow members. Kasu, a senior member and fellow assistant instructor, notices his arrival and approaches him. Kasu teases Haruto about his absence, saying practice was dull without him, and that everyone avoids sparring with him. Haruto smiles and playfully mocks Kasu's notorious reputation. Kazu puts his arm hold, advising him not to spread rumors without permission. A year older, Kazu-senpai acts as a brotherly figure to Haruto, and their friendly rivalry pushes them to improve as assistant instructors. Kazu's intimidating nickname reflects his fierce demeanor, which has lately been causing kids to cry and flee from him. Shizuku interrupts their conversation, reminding them to keep the entrance clear and stop flirting. Kazu teases her, implying she's jealous that his Haru-senpai was taken away. He praises her poised demeanor, characteristic of the Kyokushin Dojo's daughter. Shizuku rejects the idea, describing herself as lively and energetic instead. Although she's a junior at Haruto's school and surprisingly the second most popular girl among the boys when asked to describe her beauty, Haruto tactfully says she has a traditional Japanese charm. Shizuku accuses him of flirting, but kindly allows him to continue, expecting gratitude. Haruto jokes that she should react more naturally to his teasing. Shizuku poses and Haruto responds playfully. The three friends share a warm bond, familiar with each other from the dojo since childhood. After practice, Haruto prepares to leave for his part-time job. Shizuku inquires about his departure, and Kazu seizes the opportunity to ask Haruto a favor. He asks about Kazu's plans, wondering which group he's planning to take down this time. Shizuku interrupts, joking that if Kazu's looking for someone to confess his love to, she's sorry, but her feelings are reserved for Haruto-senpai. Kazu takes a deep breath, revealing a fruit tart, and asks both of them to try it. Haruto looks at the tart and asks if it's permissible for him to eat it. Shizuku, on the other hand, takes a piece and starts eating, claiming she's not the type of girl who's easily won over by sweet treats. Kazu teases Shizuku, saying that since she's already eating the tart, she's clearly not as resistant as she claims to be. He encourages Haruto to take a bite, saying the tart is incredibly delicious and asking where he bought it. As Haruto takes a bite, he agrees that it's super tasty. Kazu reveals that he baked the treats himself, catching both Shizuku and Haruto off guard with his unexpected talent. Haruto is thoroughly impressed, saying the pastries are exceptionally delicious and would undoubtedly sell well in a store. Shizuku agrees with Haruto's assessment and jokingly suggests they could open a shop called Lightning Bolt 893 if they wanted to turn their baking skills into a business venture. Kazu playfully suggests sparring with Shizuku, but she declines, citing her need to head home and help with family responsibilities. As she rushes off, Kazu comments on her adorable yet feisty personality, a trait that always keeps people on their toes. Haruto agrees, describing Shizuku's lively and energetic nature. He asks Kazu-senpai if he can teach him how to bake sometime, praising the delicious fruit tart. Kazu agrees to bake together next time, and Haruto smiles at the prospect of sharing his baked goods, particularly thinking about how much Ryota would love them. After their conversation, he heads to his part-time job, thanking Kazu for the treats. As he arrives at the Tojo house, he feels a bit nervous, despite having visited before. When he rings the doorbell, Ryota answers with Ayaka standing behind him, playfully scolding him for not asking who's there first. Ryota asks, "Who is it?" And Ayaka apologizes to Otsuki-kun for the delay. The door opens, and Ryota warmly welcomes Otsuki, followed by Ayaka's friendly greeting. Ryota enthusiastically grabs Otsuki's finger and asks if he's going to be their housekeeper, implying frequent visits. Otsuki smiles and clarifies that he'll be stopping by often during the summer break to assist, but not constantly. Ryota's excitement intensifies and he takes Otsuki to meet his mother, introducing him as the new helper. Ikue-san warmly welcomes and thanks him for taking on the role. Otsuki expresses his gratitude for the opportunity. She encourages him to relax and be himself, saying formality isn't necessary. Ayaka agrees, suggesting that being more laid back would make interactions more comfortable. Otsuki agrees to try and be more at ease. As he interacts with Ryota's family, Otsuki notices their kindness and wonders if Ayaka might share their positive opinion of him. However, he quickly cautions himself against reading too much into it. Ryota's mother assigns Otsuki his first task, cleaning out the outdoor storage shed. She leads him to the shed, explaining that it's become cluttered with unused items. Otsuki observes that the shed is packed full, and Ryota's mother mentions she had planned to ask Shuichi-san for help, but is glad Otsuki can handle it instead. Since Shuichi is extremely busy with work, she requests that Otsuki first remove all the items from the shed, and then she'll assist with sorting. Otsuki agrees and gets ready to begin. As he inspects the belongings, Otsuki notices that some of the stored items are quite vintage. He thinks about Shuichi, who apparently has a hectic schedule as the head of a company. Otsuki reflects on how Ryota doesn't display a haughty demeanor, despite her affluent upbringing, and realizes he hadn't known she came from a wealthy family. He chuckles to himself, imagining her as a typical rich girl. Just then, Ayaka approaches him and calls out, catching him off guard. She apologizes for startling him. Otsuki reassures her it's fine, and Ayaka informs him that her mother suggested they don't need to finish everything in one day. Clearing out half the shed would be a good start. Otsuki looks at the pile of items and says it's just a matter of relocating things outside. He'll get everything out today. Ayaka comments that he seems physically strong and asks if he's been exercising regularly. Otsuki replies that he attends a karate training hall. Ayaka's curiosity is piqued, and she asks if he practices karate. Otsuki confirms that he does, saying it's a common activity for guys like him. She wonders if what he said is actually true, glancing at him with a hint of skepticism. Her eyes then land on a unicycle leaning against the wall, and a nostalgic smile spreads across her face. She excitedly points it out, recalling that her dad bought it for her as a birthday gift when she was in elementary school, likely in first or second grade. Memories flood her mind as she touches the unicycle, and she wonders aloud if she can still ride it with the same ease as she did back then. She asks if she can try riding it, and he agrees, watching with interest as she positions herself to mount the unicycle. As she starts to ride, she comments that it's quite challenging, her voice tinged with a mix of amusement and concentration. He expresses concern, asking if she's okay and worried that she might fall, his eyes fixed on her with curiosity and caution. She asks if he made fun of her while she was trying to ride, and he reassures her that he didn't say anything, his expression neutral and supportive. She claims she was actually good at riding unicycles back in the day, a hint of pride in her voice as she tries to balance herself. Just as she gets into a rhythm, the unicycle starts to wobble and she's about to fall. He quickly reacts, catching her in his arms before she hits the ground. He asks if she's okay, his voice filled with concern as he checks for injuries. She replies that she's fine, relief washing over her face as she realizes she's safe in his arms. He apologizes for suddenly hugging her, his face turning a deep shade of red as he gently sets her down. She tells him he doesn't need to apologize, her voice soft as she looks up at him. If he hadn't caught her, she might have gotten hurt. She thanks him sincerely, her gratitude evident in her eyes. Both become flustered, avoiding eye contact as they stand there, the moment suddenly charged with a mix of awkwardness and unspoken understanding. She gets up and heads out, mentioning she was just there to pass on a message from her mother and wishing him good luck with his task. As she departs, he can't help but think about the moment when she was in his arms, recalling how soft she felt. He immediately scolds himself for having such thoughts, reminding himself it was only an accidental hug. Still, he worries about how she might be feeling and hopes she isn't upset. Meanwhile, Ayaka, still with a flushed face, wonders why she's feeling this way and questions the rapid beating of her heart. She tells herself it must be from the shock of almost falling, and convinces herself that's the reason. When her mother asks if she conveyed the message to Otsuki, Ayaka takes a deep breath before replying that Otsuki believes he can finish the task today since it won't take long. Her mother smiles, saying she expected him to be diligent, and noting that young people usually have plenty of energy. Ayaka notices that her mother seems to have taken a liking to Otsuki-kun after just a couple of meetings. He's been doing a good job with the household chores, and given her mother's experience running a company, Ayaka believes she has a sharp eye for judging people. Ryota then interrupts, asking if Oni-chan is done with his cleaning. She answers that it might take a bit longer. Ryota repeats that he wants to play with Oni-chan, and their mother suggests he might be able to if Otsuki finishes early. Ayaka observes how fond Ryota has grown of Otsuki-kun, and how attached he's become. She finds it understandable. Otsuki's calm and gentle nature naturally draws people to him. She thinks he has a warm, caring personality, like an older brother, and finds it endearing. Her mother notices her blushing and teasingly asks if something happened between her and Otsuki. Ayaka quickly recalls their earlier interaction and becomes even more flustered, insisting that nothing unusual occurred. She tells her mother she needs to return to her room to focus on her summer work. Once alone, Ayaka lies on her bed and wonders why her heart races whenever she thinks about Otsuki. She questions whether she might be developing romantic feelings for him. Trying to calm herself, she reasons it's too soon to tell and that her emotions might just be influenced by recent events. She attributes her growing awareness of him to the comments made by her friends and family. As she reflects, Ayaka realizes she admires many of Otsuki's qualities, his calmness, politeness, and modesty. She appreciates that he doesn't judge her based on appearances and values his kind and gentle nature. Ryota's affection for him is heartwarming, and his cooking and cleaning skills have clearly impressed her parents. She thinks these traits make him genuinely likable. She also recalls his impressive academic record, being top of his class, and his unexpected physical strength. But she stops herself from getting carried away, reminding herself to stay calm and think clearly. Otsuki is certainly charming, but the real question is whether she truly has romantic feelings for him. She chides herself for jumping to conclusions so quickly, comparing it to the boys who confess to her without really knowing her. Her ideal is to build a friendship first and let romance develop naturally. Since she doesn't know Otsuki well yet, she decides it's best to start by getting to know him as a friend. Still, she can't help but wonder why she's even thinking about romance at all. Her mind spins as she struggles to understand her emotions. To distract herself, she picks up a manga and reads a scene where the heroine's heart races just from making eye contact with her love interest. She can't help but relate to the situation. Just then, her mother calls out, saying that Ryota wants to know if she'd like to join them shopping with Otsuki again today. Ayaka answers that she's coming and heads out to join them. Ayaka shyly asks Otsuki what he plans to cook today. He replies that he's going to make chilled oden, and she blinks in surprise, not realizing it could be eaten that way. Otsuki smiles and says he believes it'll be delicious and that she'll be satisfied. His confident tone makes her heart skip a beat, and she suddenly realizes just how much he affects her. But she quickly dismisses the thought, telling herself she's simply excited to try the oden. Ryota, curious, asks whether oden has eggs in it. Otsuki responds by asking if he likes eggs. The boy beams and says he loves them. Watching their exchange, Ayaka can't help but think Otsuki would make a wonderful father someday. Ryota notices her expression and asks why she's making such a strange face, but she hurriedly denies it. When she confirms the details of the meal with Otsuki, he chuckles and says that with such a pretty face, he can't imagine her making a weird one. His casual but disarming comment catches her completely off guard. Ayaka decides she'll have to be careful around his offhand remarks. They tend to leave quite an impact. Ryota gives her a curious look, and she wonders uneasily if her little brother has caught on to her flustered behavior. When they return home, Otsuki heads to the kitchen to prepare the meal. Ayaka offers to help, but he politely declines, reminding her that she's his client. She asks if it would really be a bother, and noticing the sparkle of excitement in her eyes, he finally agrees and asks her to help with the fish cakes. As they work together, Ayaka realizes her heart isn't racing anymore, and concludes that she hasn't truly fallen in love with him, at least not yet. Just then, Shuichi-san returns home, and seeing them side by side in the kitchen, remarks that they look like a newlywed couple. Ayaka instantly flushes red and protests loudly, telling her father not to say weird things. He just laughs, insisting it was only a harmless joke. The next day, Haruto is studying diligently at Tomoya's place when he remarks that, while he's happy to lend him his desk, too much studying can be bad for him. Haruto playfully suggests that Tomoya should focus on his own studies instead. Tomoya replies that he's too busy perfecting his guitar skills. He then asks Haru about his housekeeping job, wondering if anything exciting has happened recently. Tomoya also asks if there's been any progress between Haruto and Tojo-san since their last conversation. Haruto mentions that he's visited the Tojo house a few times, but Tomoya's enthusiasm fades when Haruto clarifies that he's only there for work. Tomoya is surprised to learn that Haruto regularly visits the Tojo's residence. Haruto explains that it's part of his contractual agreement. Tomoya reminds him that he once mentioned how the Tojo family seems fond of him, and advises him not to miss the chance to get closer to Ayaka. With a grin, Tomoya jokes that if things go well, Haruto might even end up in a romantic relationship with her. Haruto quickly dismisses the idea, saying that it's not going to happen. Tomoya finds his denial amusing and teases that with his exceptional cooking skills, maybe he can win Ayaka's heart through her stomach. He implies that Haruto's culinary talents might just make Ayaka fall for him. Haruto chuckles and says that Ayaka isn't the type to fall for someone easily. If she were, she would have been in a relationship a long time ago. He adds jokingly that they're talking about the school idol. If he ever dated her, he'd probably be mobbed by jealous boys just for holding her hand on the way to school. The thought alone makes him laugh. Tomoya teases him again, asking if he wouldn't make a move even if Ayaka showed interest. Haruto shrugs and says he just wants a peaceful high school life. Tomoya calls him a coward, but Haruto only smiles, unfazed by the teasing. As Haruto continues studying, his thoughts drift to Ayaka. He finds her not only beautiful but also surprisingly approachable and caring, especially toward her younger brother. He can't help but picture her smiling at him, the way she does when she asks to join them. Just as his daydream starts to deepen, Tomoya interrupts, asking if he's heading to her place again today. Haruto replies that he'll stop by after finishing his shopping. Tomoya grins and says he must be smitten. Haruto just shakes his head with a smile. At the shopping mall, Haruto notices the crowd is larger than usual, with people bustling about and carrying their shopping bags. He weaves through the throng, scanning the stores for what he needs. While browsing, he spots a limited-time sale offering discounts on spices and condiments. His eyes widen when he sees sesame oil priced at just 78 yen. He's thrilled. It's the supermarket's original brand, which usually costs over 200 yen. He decides to grab it right away, but notices a sign limiting purchases to one per customer. After seeing this, he calls Tomoya and asks him to come to the supermarket. Tomoya answers, wondering if Haruto forgot something, but Haruto simply urges him to hurry over without explaining why. Tomoya, detecting Haruto's excitement, guesses that it's that moment again. Haruto confirms, saying he can't afford to miss the opportunity. However, Tomoya explains that he's on his way to the studio for rehearsal and apologizes for being unable to help. Haruto tells him it's fine and apologizes for the trouble. Next, Haruto contacts Kazu asking for assistance. Kazu replies that he's busy baking and can't leave. Haruto apologizes for interrupting him. Then he calls Shizuku, asking for her cooperation in exchange for a favor. Shizuku playfully suggests a kiss, or something more, as a reward. Haruto firmly tells her to stop. Shizuku laughs and says her mom asked her to tend to the garden. Haruto apologizes for disturbing her and wishes her luck. Shizuku blows him a playful flying kiss before hanging up. Haruto exhales and decides to follow the rules, buying just one bottle of sesame oil. He plans to grab some soy paste before heading home. Just then, Ayaka strolls into the mall, thinking about her mother's request for Japanese horseradish. She realizes she's been visiting the mall quite often lately. Remembering her previous trip with Haruto when they bought pumpkin together, she feels her cheeks warm. The thought of meeting him again makes her heart flutter, but she quickly brushes it off, reminding herself not to get carried away. She doesn't want to fall too fast or overthink what the future might hold. As she searches for wasabi in the crowded mall, her eyes scan the aisles until they land on a familiar figure. Her heart skips a beat. It's Haruto. She instinctively hides behind a nearby pillar and peeks out to confirm it's really him. Her mind races, unsure if she should approach him or stay hidden. Watching him shop with a focused expression, she finds this new, serious side of him intriguing. The sight brings her a quiet joy, and she feels herself drawn to him even more. Curious and a bit concerned, she wonders if something's bothering him, or if he's just concentrating on his shopping. After some hesitation, Ayaka takes a deep breath, gathers her courage, and calls out to him. Haruto turns around, and their eyes meet. For a moment, neither of them says anything. Ayaka can see the admiration in his gaze, and her heart skips another beat.
Here I am, know it's been